All right, so we've got a ton of info here about KPR Mill,
Yeah.
um, company profiles and financial reports, even a YouTube analysis. You weren't kidding when you said deep dive.
I like to be thorough.
Where it looks like we're trying to figure out how this company went from like a small operation to a big player in Indian apparel.
Right, and what their future might look like.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Where did it all start?
So picture this 1971 KP Ramasamy. This young guy starts out as like a small-time cloth manufacturer with just a few power looms.
Hmm.
He's got this vision, though, this drive, and he and his brother start expanding the business.
And they eventually went public in 2012. That's pretty impressive.
It is, and the way they did it is really interesting. They built this vertically integrated model. I mean, we're
Yeah,
talking
just
control over the entire process, from yarn to garments.
okay, hold on. Why is vertical integration so important for them?
Well, think about it. It gives them control, flexibility, and quality.
Hmm.
Like imagine there's a sudden shift in demand, say a new trend pops up.
Yeah.
Because they manage everything in-house, they can adjust quickly. They don't have to rely on other suppliers.
So they're nimble, not stuck waiting for someone else.
Exactly. And they can keep the quality consistent across the board.
Okay, that makes sense. So what kind of products are we talking about here?
Oh, they have a huge range, different types of yarn like combed, gray, melange, even compact, and polyester yarn.
Yeah.
And for garments, everything from basic tees to more like specialized athleisure wear.
Wow, so this is a massive operation. How big are we talking?
To give you an idea, they have something like 370,000 spindles churning out yarn. That's 100,000 metric tons a year.
Wow.
Their knitting division produces around 40,000 metric tons of fabric each year. And get this, they can produce 157 million garments annually.
That's incredible. So we've got a sense of the company now.
Mm-hmm.
What about the industry overall?
Yeah.
Where does India fit into the global textile landscape?
Well, the global textile industry is always changing, but the Indian textile scene is really exciting right now.
Oh, yeah?
It's projected to see double-digit growth in the coming years.
Wow, that's huge. What's driving that growth?
A few things, actually. The Indian government is really supportive of the industry. They're creating things like textile parks to make it easier for companies to grow.
So it's a team effort.
Right, and then
Yeah.
you've got this shift in what people want. They're moving away from formal wear and going for more casual and athleisure wear.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So comfort and style.
Exactly, and guess who's in a perfect position to capitalize on that?
KPR Mill with their Faso brand.
They're tapping into this growing market and becoming a trendy brand for a younger audience.
So it's not just about the clothes, it's about a lifestyle.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got a company with a solid base, an industry that's set to grow, and a smart brand strategy. But what about the money? How is their revenue doing?
Well, the good news is KPR Mill has multiple streams of revenue. They're not just relying on textiles, they're also bringing in money from sugar ethanol and power generation.
Oh, so they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Nope. If one area slows down, they've got others to cushion the blow.
Smart. Okay, so let's zoom in on their textile business. That's their main thing, right?
Definitely, last fiscal year, textiles accounted for like 78% of their total revenue.
That's a huge chunk. So how much of that is from India versus other countries?
Good question. In the last fiscal year, domestic sales were about 62% of their revenue, and exports made up the other 38%.
Okay.
Their big export markets are the US, UK, Australia, and Europe.
So they're playing both at home and abroad.
Right. A good balance.
It sounds like things are going really well, but I'm guessing it hasn't all been smooth sailing, especially with everything happening in the global economy lately.
Yeah, you're right. They've had some challenges like many companies in textiles. They were hit by some global headwinds, and their revenue actually dipped a bit in fiscal year 2024.
Really, what caused that?
Well, a few factors came together. Cotton prices went through a correction, and there was less demand for textile exports.
I see. So when your raw materials get more expensive and people aren't buying as much, it's bound to have an effect.
Exactly.
Okay, so how are they dealing with these challenges?
Well, they're not just sitting around. They're adapting and coming up with new strategies.
Well, let's dive into that in part 2 of our deep dive. We'll see how KPR Mill is navigating these choppy waters and what their future might hold in this ever-changing world.
Sounds good. So we left off with KPR facing some challenges in the global market.
Right, how are they planning to deal with all that?
Well, they're not just waiting it out. They're being proactive,
Yeah.
And one big strategy is expanding into garments.
Garments.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the growth is.
Makes sense. So what does that look like for them? I mean, specifically.
Well, they've been investing a lot in increasing their garment production capacity.
Okay.
Last year, they opened a whole new facility in Tamil Nadu which added like 42 million garments to their yearly output.
Wow, that's a big jump.
hmm
Are they going to keep expanding?
Oh, yeah, they're aiming to increase their garment capacity by another 30 million pieces by 2026.
So they're going all in on garments, but they're not ignoring their other businesses, are they? What about yarn and sugar?
Nope, they're taking a balanced approach. With yarn, they're moving away from just basic stuff and focusing on more specialized, value-added products.
Okay, so higher quality yarn.
Right, those command higher prices, which helps when cotton prices are all over the place.
Smart. And what about sugar?
They're not standing still there either. They just invested a bunch of money, about 150 crores, to expand their ethanol production at their sugar mill. Plus, they've been upgrading their processing capacity and printing capabilities.
So they're busy across the board, expanding capacity, diversifying their product lines. It seems like they're really trying to stay ahead of the game. But are they actually using all this expanded capacity? I mean, are they running at full speed?
Well, they haven't given specific utilization rates, but we can kind of figure it out from their financials.
Oh, okay.
Given how well they've been doing and how ambitious their expansion plans are, it's safe to say they're operating at a pretty healthy level. I mean, if they weren't utilizing their existing capacity, well, why would they invest so much in expanding more?
That's a good point. It sounds like they're confident they can meet the growing demand. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about their different product lines. We know they have garments, yarn, and retail, but I'd like to understand how each of those is performing individually. Let's start with garments. What's driving their success there?
Their vertical integration model is a big advantage.
Right, we talked about that.
Exactly. By handling everything from yarn production to the final garment, they have total control over quality costs, and they can react quickly to trends.
So they're not at the mercy of suppliers or unpredictable prices.
Nope, it's all in-house. Plus, they've built a strong reputation for quality and reliability. They've even landed partnerships with some big international apparel brands.
So they're making a name for themselves globally.
Yeah.
Okay, what about yarn? How are they doing in that market?
It's a tough business, especially with those cotton prices, but they're managing the risks well. They're strategic about sourcing their cotton, and they're focusing on those higher margin specialized yarns we talked about.
So they're being smart about it. What about their retail segment? Faso is pretty new, but it seems to be doing well.
Yeah, Faso is all about capturing the Indian consumer. They're doing it by focusing on quality, style, and sustainability.
It's a good combo.
Right, and it seems to be working. So what do you think about their overall market position? Where do they stand in the Indian textile industry, and who are they up against?
That's a good question. What do you think?
Well, I think they're definitely a major player in the Indian market. That vertical integration gives them a big edge over a lot of their competitors. They can control costs, maintain quality, and adapt quickly. Plus, they've been around for a while, so they have experience, brand recognition, and strong relationships with suppliers and customers.
So they've got a lot going for them. But it's a competitive industry, right?
Yeah.
Who are they competing with?
There are other big players in India, and of course, there's always international competition. But KPR Mill has some things that make them stand out.
Like what?
Their focus on sustainability is a big one.
Yeah, that's becoming really important to consumers.
Exactly. And they're not just talking about it, they're actually doing it. They're using renewable energy, they're committed to ethical sourcing, they're minimizing waste, and they're even designing their products with sustainability in mind.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're in a good position to compete globally. Okay, let's talk about their financial health. You're interested in their long-term sustainability, right?
Yeah, and their capital structure is a good indicator of that. KPR Mill has a very healthy capital structure with a low overall gearing ratio.
Okay, and what does that mean exactly?
Basically, it means they're not carrying a lot of debt, which is good. It lowers their financial risk and gives them more flexibility.
So they're being responsible with their finances. That's good to hear.
Right. Their strong financial performance also means they're generating good cash flow, which strengthens their position. And it's not just us saying this. They've got a stable outlook from CARE Ratings, which is a leading credit rating agency.
So external experts are also confident in their future.
Exactly. It seems like they've built a solid foundation for continued success. They've faced challenges, but they've adapted and innovated, and they seem well-positioned for a bright future.
That's great to hear. So in the final part of our deep dive, we'll wrap things up and highlight some key takeaways for our listeners. Plus, we'll give them some food for thought as they continue to explore KPR Mill.
Sounds good.
Okay, so here we are at the final part of our deep dive into KPR Mill.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? We've gone from their early days to where they are now. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we have. We've seen how they went from a small operation to this huge company with global ambitions.
Right, and it's not just about textiles. It's about smart business decisions and adapting to change.
So as we wrap up, let's try to sum up what we've learned. What are some of the most important things that stand out to you about KPR Mill?
Well, their vertical integration model is definitely a key takeaway. I mean, it's not just a fancy term for them. It's like the core of their success.
Yeah.
By controlling every single step, they've created a system that's super efficient and flexible, and they can really ensure quality.
It's like a well-oiled machine where all the parts work together perfectly. And it makes them more resilient, too.
Right. They've shown they can handle market changes, whether it's the price of cotton or consumer demand shifting.
And we can't forget about their diversification strategy. They're not afraid to branch out beyond textiles.
Exactly. They've got sugar ethanol power generation. It's like a safety net.
Smart risk management, for sure. They're spreading their bets and creating a more stable revenue stream.
Another thing that impressed me is their commitment to sustainability. They're really making it a part of everything they do.
Yeah, they're using renewable energy, promoting ethical sourcing, reducing waste. Even their product designs are focused on sustainability.
It's not just talk, they're actually doing it. And that's resonating with consumers, especially younger people who care about the environment.
And speaking of reaching consumers, their Faso brand is a great example of how they're understanding the market.
Faso is more than just clothes. It's a statement about their commitment to innovation and style.
Okay, so to summarize, KPR Mill is a company with a strong past, a good present, and a bright future. They've faced challenges, but they've adapted and innovated, and they're in a great position to keep growing.
Absolutely. They're a company that's worth keeping an eye on.
But here's the big question for our listeners. Why should you care about this story?
That's a good question. Well, on one hand, it's a great case study for anyone interested in business finance or textiles. It shows how a company can start small and become a global player by planning, strategically investing wisely, and really understanding the market.
It's a story of ambition, hard work, and innovation.
But it's also a story about the bigger picture. It's about how companies are changing with the times, adopting new technologies and meeting new demands.
It's a story about sustainability, ethical sourcing, and how our choices impact the planet.
And ultimately, it's a story about what's possible. It shows that companies can not only succeed, but also make a positive impact on the world.
So as we finish up, we want to leave you with a final thought to think about.
Okay.
Given their track record and their success with Faso, could KPR Mill become a major player in the global athleisure market?
Interesting question. It's something to consider as you learn more about this company.
It's a question only time will answer. But one thing is certain, KPR Mill is not afraid to dream big and go after those dreams.
So keep an eye on them. Their story is far from over.
And maybe one day you'll be wearing Faso gear while you're out there achieving your own goals.
That's a great image to end on. A reminder that even the biggest goals are within reach.
Well, that's all the time we have for our deep dive into KPR Mill. We hope you enjoyed the journey.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.